Hey, good day, family. Welcome to another YouTube video with me, your host, Mathix Maslangu. Now, wow, today is a very beautiful day. As you can see, it's Christmas. I would show you the sun, but it is hidden behind clouds. And so I just decided to make a YouTube video based on Christmas. So we'll call this the origins of Christmas. I just want to give you a history of where the whole birth of Jesus and Christmas comes from. So we're going to be talking about the history and origins of Christmas. So now, I don't know if you know, but you should know. And if you don't know, then I would appreciate it if you do your own research, because this is not going to be a long video. I'm just going to give you a quick summary. I think it just started drizzling as well, but I'm going to give you a quick summary as to what the whole story of Jesus was based upon. Now, you need to understand that what we call the human being, what we call the human vessel, is a universal consciousness that has been embodied in a material, fleshly existence. So everything that you see manifested in the physical realm, I'll give you an example. Everything that you see manifested in the physical realm, from the blades of grass to a goat, which is very also symbolic, but we'll talk about goats and sheep another day, from cows to everything. Everything is consciousness experiencing itself as these particular forms. So now we're going to talk about the human form in terms of its own consciousness manifestation pertaining to the story of Christmas. So now, when we are talking about the story of Christmas, what are we talking about? Well, first of all, you're going to have to understand the story of Osiris, which I spoke about in the decoding of the Lion King. You're going to have to understand the story of Osiris, Isis, and Set, because that's where we are dealing with the whole concept of the Immaculate Conception, which is the whole story of Jesus. Now, this is a phenomena that is happening as above, so below. So this means that everything that is happening in the heavens and the stars is also manifested in the below, which is your body. But right now, I'm going to call this a part one because I only want to talk about the above. I will talk about the part two, which you can find that on my podcast on Awakening Conversations with Mathix on Anchor. So if you want to find out about part two, in terms of the whole Christmas story, go check out my Anchor podcast, and there I'm going to talk about the biological side of Christmas. So now let's quickly get into the whole story of Osiris, Isis, and Set, and Heru, and explain the Christmas story. So now it is said that the physical sun that we see right now, which is hidden behind the clouds, the sun, in its movement throughout the solar system, we experience it in different ways here on Earth. So right now, here in South Africa, we are in the southern hemisphere, and then in the northern hemisphere, they're experiencing winter. So they are in the winter solstice, we are in the summer solstice. So now, in the winter solstice, the nights are longer than the days, and in the summer solstice the days are longer than the night. So what happens is that in the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, what happens on December 25th is that the sun begins to stay out much longer than it did before. So it is said that the sun stays out a minute longer than it did before. So hence they call it the birth of the sun. Now, to understand this whole astronomical phenomena, we have to first look at the story that the ancient Egyptians left for us of Osiris, Isis, and Set. So the story goes that Set killed his brother Osiris, right? And the spirit, there's many different variations, but they're basically all saying the same things, cutting up into many pieces. As I said, go do your own research, because you need to understand this from your own perspective, but I'm just going to give you the summarized version of it. So, Isis, which is the wife of Osiris, after Osiris has been killed, was visited by the spirit of Osiris. And then she conceived. That's where we get the whole Immaculate Conception. This is the story of Joseph and Isis. So where the Greeks who conquered Egypt, who were later conquered by the Romans, got this story, all of this was from the Egyptian story. So it first was a story, a metaphysical, esoteric story from the Egyptians that was later stolen by the Greeks, then stolen by the Romans. So throughout the times, they kept changing the names from Osar, Aset, and Heru to different names throughout the ages. So now, the story goes that Set kills Osiris, and then Osiris' spirit rises up to give Isis a spiritual pregnancy, and then she later on gives birth to Heru, who is here now to avenge his father. Now, the whole avenging is the bringing back of light, because it is said that the nights in the sky, when the sun is in the winter solstice, the nights are longer than the day. So darkness and ignorance. So in December 25th, when the sun is setting, it stays a minute out longer than the previous time. So that's what they meant by the birth of the sun. It was the birth of the sun. Now, the whole significance of this when it pertains to the stars is that there's a constellation which is called the constellation of Orion. And in the constellation of Orion, they are what we call the three kings, which in the ancient times, or in the Bible, you will see them as the three wise men who ushered in the birth of the sun. So the constellation of Orion is associated with Osar, or Osiris, which is the father of Heru. And those three stars point to the eastern star, the rising of the eastern star, which is the brightest star in the sky, which is Aset, or Isis, which in the Bible you know of as Mary. So the constellation of Orion is associated with Osar, and the three stars in Orion point to the eastern rising of the brightest star in the sky, which is Isis. And at the same time that the eastern star is rising, it is rising simultaneously while the constellation of Virgo is on the horizon. Horizon also being Horus, Heru, which is Jesus, where we get this whole story from. This is why they say that Horus, or the sun, was born of a virgin, the virgin being Virgo, the constellation of Virgo. So all of these are astronomical phenomena that were being duplicated or replicated on the planet, because you need to understand that what happens in the stars is replicated in the planet through us in the form of consciousness. So now, this is the whole story. This is what it's all about. I'm just giving you a brief summary. I don't want to go into a detailed explanation of it, because you gotta go experience your Christmas with your family. But this is what it's all about, family. It is about the evolution of human consciousness and how we grow, how the sun moves out through the different constellations. So the whole Christmas story of Santa Claus, it's very deep. It's very deep, and I'm going to talk about this in my part 2, where I explain the whole Santa Claus phenomena, how him bringing gifts down the chimney is nothing but the claustrum, or the corpus callosum, which is the brain area that sends down a spiritual fluid, which is called cerebrospinal fluid in science. which bathes the pineal gland with this particular oil. Hence you see the whole Christ being associated with an oil. Christ means oil. It means to be anointed. So it's as above, so below. What happens in the stars happens below, within your body. Santa Claus sending gifts down the chimney is nothing but the Christ oil moving up and down your spine. That's that chimney. But I'm going to talk about that in my podcast. So basically, that's the whole story, family. That's the whole story of Jesus. That's the whole story of the Immaculate Conception. It's nothing but the movement of the stars in the different constellation as the sun moves through the constellation of Libra, the scales, and then it moves into that after being coming from Virgo. So all of these, that's what it's all about. The ancients were able to track the movements of the sun. And if you read in Genesis, it says that look upon the stars, and the stars shall be there for signs. So what you know of as holidays are actually holy days. Listen to this. A holiday is a holy day, which means that it's a day that the ancients celebrated to acknowledge certain phenomena that were happening in the stellar, that were happening in the higher cosmic, in the stars, that were duplicated below in the form of human consciousness. So the 12 disciples, nothing but the 12 cranial nerves. But that's for the part 2. So yeah, family, that's all I'm going to give you today. As I said, I want you to enjoy your Christmas. I just wanted to give you a brief explanation in terms of what it is that the stars are representing when it comes to the birth of the Christ. It's the birth of the inner Christ within you, the intelligence within you. So Merry Christmas to you all, and may the inner sun rise within you to avenge your Father, which is the kingdom of light. Jesus came here to establish the kingdom of his Father, which is light, the days being longer than the night. That's all it's about. So the light, the intelligence within you has to reign more than the darkness that dominates. So Merry Christmas to you all, family. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you can get more videos in future. And it's all beautiful. It's a beautiful day. It is a very, very beautiful day. Very beautiful day. Peace out, family. Much love.